So we have our SP bar, and now we've confirmed that adding and removing SP from the player class will change the bar. So let's go ahead and take another look at our skills. So we have this active skill class has nothing, passive skill, which we implemented earlier, and skills, which is the base class and has the key, display name, description, and a array of required skills, parents to this skill, if you want to envision a skill tree. So for an active skill, what do we need? Well, so first off, what kind of active skill are we going to use to test our system with? I think something simple to start with. Let's just use we'll have an attack that does 1.5 times damage. It'll just be a stronger version of the normal attack. So for that, we need what? So I'm trying to think, do I want to store a function in this active skill that is a delegate to a function that executes when this skill is used, and also one for the prerequisite of can we use this skill? Or do I want to have a switch statement somewhere that looks at the skill's name and then leads me to the appropriate skill lookups? I'm inevitably going to so I don't know if I'm going to leave these definitions in code or if I'm going to read these skills from a database or not. I haven't quite decided what the overall benefits and deficits of each approach are. So, and if you'll remember from an earlier episode, I have this skill repository here that is just a list of a dictionary of skills, and these are all passive skills. But I want to store my active skills in here as well. So, yeah. We'll go with this for the moment. So I'm going to have I'm going to have the function separate from this. So active skill really does not have anything other than what a normal skill has. I think there's going to be other information like unlocking requirements and maybe it costs a certain amount of XP to unlock this skill, or it has a level requirement, but even still, those are just skill statuses, right? So if that's the case, then do I even need passive? Well, passive skill needs to be a subclass because of the stat stuff. I don't really have anything that active skill is going to derive, so really it's just an organizational inheritance. At least for the moment. Maybe I'll change my mind on that in a few. So, active skills. We'll just call it bash. And to continue our trend, I'm going to have stun bash So we'll have bash that's stronger than a normal attack, and we'll have stun bash, which has a chance of stunning in addition to the damage it deals. Now I haven't implemented a stunning mechanism yet, but really, aside from the visual effects, stunning is just going to be a matter of stopping the enemy's stamina from regenerating for a certain amount of time. Because until their stamina is regenerated, they can't attack. It's essentially an active time bar for them. So, we got bash, we got stun bash. I need my player class. And so we have our unlocked skills. I'm going to separate this into another class because, quite frankly, player at 534 lines of code is already longer than I would like it to be. And I am planning on moving some of this other stuff out of here, like the, I think the QuickTime event stuff and things like that are gonna move out eventually. But for now, that was an easy place to put things while I was testing. So player is going to have a player skill controller. All right. I'm going to go ahead and attach him now. I really wish Unity had a collapse all components on this thing. That'll make things so much easier. And player is going to yeah, I'm going to keep this as a mono behavior. The player skill controller, that is. So it's going to have its own update call and all that. And it's going to be, yeah. So it has its own update. It knows all that stuff. So first off, if the player's in battle or not in battle, we have different skills that are going to be used. So first off, we need a way to associate which skills are equipped. Now, I'd initially thought my initial thought is that the player has 2 skill bars, essentially. So if they're holding down right trigger on the controller, all of the face buttons will activate a different skill. And if they're holding down left trigger, you get a different set of skills on your face button. And then releasing both, you get your normal set of commands. Your attack, your guard, X is escape, and Y is for quick heal, which uses a healing item. So, how do I want to organize this? Well, I think for the moment, we'll keep this a little simple. So I'm going to have a private player is going to know about his equipped skills. We're going to have a equipped skills manager. This is not going to be a mono behavior. and it is going to have a dictionary. Equip skills left trigger and equip skills right trigger. I'm going to call this bar 1 and bar 2 because I'm going to have keyboard controls. I'm going to have controller input. So I don't want to call that trigger necessarily. Now, I have my face button controller, and I referenced my buttons by enumerations, I believe. Yeah, it says an enum of position. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to pull this out. Actually, I'm going to rename it first, because position's a little bit too as far as descriptive naming goes. And we're going to make that not a member of the face button display controller. So that's going to yell at me at a few spots. Now I'm hitting Control-Shift F12 to go to the next error, and I'm holding Control and pressing Delete to delete whole words. There we go. All right, so that takes care of all that. Now, so we'll just leave that called as face button position. So I've been referencing these as face button position, top, bottom, left, and right to denote the Xbox controller Y, X, B, and A. But my input manager is still looking at button A, button Y, button B, button X as the names. And obviously that's a Xbox controller scheme. I'm going to well, I don't know if I'll change that since that's just a construct of the code, but in whatever options menu I decide to set up or on various platforms, like I'm gonna change the graphics you saw with the Xbox controller buttons on it to whatever that platform is. Or for keyboard, I don't know what buttons those will be yet. Maybe numbers. I suppose I won't need the well, I don't know. I don't know if I'll keep using the hold down the trigger to choose your skills mechanism for a keyboard. Might make sense just to use the number keys 1 through 8 or something like that. But for now, I'm going to target the controller first and worry about the rest of that a little bit more down the line. You know, once I have a real game. So we're going to pass in, when we equip this skill, we're going to pass in which bar it is, which skill key it is, and the button to use. So if bar is equal to 1, 2. We're going to do a simple add or replace. And then we will get the skill based on which bar we're looking at, which will be detected earlier on up the chain, whether they're holding down the left trigger or right trigger, and which button was pressed. So that's fine. And in our player, we are going to have a Alright, so we're going to go ahead and fake out some equipping of skills since we don't have a UI for that at the moment. Let's see. So now I need to detect that the player is doing some stuff. So in battle update, if we have a full stamina, we can attack. Now I need to prevent. So first off, input manager. Have I defined anything for my triggers? I have not. So I'm going to go to the internet here. I'm going to pull up my handy dandy Unity 3D Xbox controller page from the Unity community wiki that has this lovely little diagram that shows all of the, so the buttons are there, triggers are axis, which is kind of annoying, but it's also fine. So on Windows, on the Xbox controller, which is all I'm really concerned with at the moment, left and right trigger is the third axis. Yeah. So if the value is, so left trigger if the third axis is -1 to 0, and right trigger if the axis is greater than 0. So really actually 0 just means neither of them are pressed. So yeah. So let's grab one of our axes here. Actually, let's see here. Sensitivity on the axis should be 1. Gravity of axis should be set to 0. And there's no special notes about the triggers. So that's fine then. So in that case, I can take so 23. Actually, really, I only need 1, right? So trigger axis. And this is going to be I'll leave it the same as the joysticks for the moment. And we'll see if this works. So trigger axis. And actually, this is yet another time where my test stuff will come in handy. So this guy is then just going to debug.log the axis for the third axis, allegedly. So we get all zeros, hold down the right trigger. Right trigger is negative. Left trigger is positive. And if I hold them both down, it's 0. If I hold one down fully and the left one half, it does go into the negative and positive direction. Yeah, I'm not going to be that picky with it. So left is positive, right is negative. All right. I'm going to make note of that real quick. Left trigger, positive, right trigger, negative. Okay. Now then, so and I just noticed from the last video, my cracking my knuckles is showing up in the audio. I need to watch that. It did not sound good. I didn't even realize I was cracking my knuckles anymore. I blame the cold weather. So, face buttons. I want to change the text on these buttons to match my equipment. But I'm doing this every frame with some of the other things. I intended to go back and make sure it was only when these states change. When it can attack changes from false to true, I want to reset the color. At the same time, if that state changes, I want to set it to red. I don't want to necessarily set these every frame. Because while they are just setting values, it's unnecessary, right? But I think for the moment, I need to come back and do this holistically anyways. So for the moment, I'm not going to worry about it too much. But let's see. Well, this is accessible elsewhere, so I'm going to make this so I got skill controller. This is going to be using the skills. Equip skills manager. No, I'm just going to leave that as that. Player skill controller. Honestly, yeah. As far as this is concerned right here, if triggers equal 0. If no trigger is being held down, then I'm good. Yeah, so I'm going to get that every frame. If not, this dot triggers held. So if they're holding the triggers, I can't use my normal attack, and I can't use my normal Y. And additionally, I don't even need to check all that other stuff. Additionally, where did I moved escaping out of my battle, and I moved it here to this escape controller. And this guy's looking at button X. Input.get button X. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to do the same thing. Because if X is the escape button, is that really what I want to do? Do I want X to be the escape button? Start's going to be pause. I don't know what select or back is going to be. I'm definitely not going to use the guide button. What about L and R? A left bumper, right bumper. I had thoughts about using that as a, using items. Maybe holding down one of the control sticks could be escape. I'm just wondering if I need to bother with this for this part, because I kind of just put escape as X just for testing purposes. I wasn't really thinking about the control scheme. But now I'm kind of getting closer and closer. Did I make any notes about the controls? No, I didn't. Yeah, I'll do this for now, and I'll worry about that later. So triggers held is equal to that. And so if they're holding down X, we are in the process of escaping. If the time it takes to escape has elapsed, we have successfully escaped, and the battle ends. If we let go of X, then we're no longer escaping, and we reset the timer, and we turn off the indicator, and this Boolean state in player gets reset as well. So if the player's holding down X and trigger is not held. So if they're holding down X, they can't look at their skills. Similarly, I won't accidentally start escaping if they hit a skill that is set to X, if they're looking at that menu. And that's fine for the moment. I'm going to need to decide what to do with my control scheme a little bit later. I know I want to do this shift system using the triggers, but I don't know what I want to do for escape yet. I mean, hell, maybe I'll make escape a skill they have to use, and it just locks them into it. Who knows? Who knows? So triggers held. Player's not going to attack while the triggers are held. I've locked down that face button. Quick heal was a part of this. Guarding is a problem. Guard Q to E, button B. This is starting to feel a little janky, but you know, I can come back to it. It's not the end of the world. And honestly, leaving this state management in here like this, it's fine. Like, it's not bad. It's not like I'm building a huge reusable control scheme system or anything. Like, I'm very much tying this to which buttons were pressed when, which might come back to bite me when I go to do different controller schemes, when I go to do keyboard and mouse control. But for now, I'm not as worried about this as I am getting the skill system working. So for the skill controller, which I'm going to go ahead and pin over here, I also want to I want the float. So trigger value is equal to that. Input.getAccess. All right, so if we are holding a trigger, if this dot trigger value is not equal to 0, if trigger value is not equal to 0 and the press button is not equal to none, then we are using a skill. If this dot can use skills. So we'll go ahead and they can use a skill. So this has nothing to do with the independent skill, but they can use a skill if the player can act in battle, meaning that the battle is in progress, and so can act in battle set to true when the battle starts, and it is set to false when the last enemy's death animation starts. And we're going to make sure that the stamina is full, because I'm kind of doing that everywhere else. So until I change my mind, I'm just going to continue on as if that's the way I'm going to do it. Now, there's also, can I use an individual skill? So maybe the active skill is a overworld only skill, which as a second tier of this, I'm going to have a second set of equipped skills for the overworld. But for this, I'm only really concerned with in-battle skills. Secondarily, maybe there is maybe the player doesn't have enough SP to use the skill. Or maybe there is some kind of other requirement for using the skill, like their I don't know, actually. Just any scenario I haven't really thought of. You know, different skills might have different requirements from one another. So I have my trigger value, my trigger is being held, and they have pressed A button, and the player can use skills. Which means that I need to find out what the equipped skill is, and I need to use it. So player has this equipped skills thing that I am not exposing. Yeah, equipped skills was the thing. So the bar is going to be 1 for the left bar, 2 for the right bar. So 1 for left trigger, 2 for right trigger. And I said before that I believe left trigger was positive and right trigger was negative, if I remember right. I deleted that comment. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So So the bar is going to be trigger value is less than 0, 1, else 2. And this dot pressed button. No, that's not really true. Well, it is true in the sense that I'm checking that the trigger is not equal to 0. So it's either less than 0 or greater than 0. But if I were to remove that, move this around or something, this condition would fail because I would need to check if the trigger is greater than 0 as well. But because I know the trigger is not 0, then we're fine. So string skill name, if not string is null or empty skill name. So if you remember from our equipped skill manager, if the entry is not found, it will return null. So if there is an equipped skill in that slot, then it will return the skill name. So we need to then check if we can use the skill, and we need to use the skill. So if this dot can use skill, not skills, and this is going to take the skill name, then this dot use skill. And we'll just go ahead and generate both of these method stubs. So can use the skill. So for the moment, that is going to be, so first off, I need the skill information. Skill repository.instance.get skill name. Active. And here comes our first usage of active skill. So an active skill is going to have a SP cost first and foremost. So if skill is not equal to null, meaning that skill name was found in our repository. If it wasn't, well, we have bigger data issues that we're trying to use skills that aren't in the system. But if the skill is not equal to null, return skill.sp cost is less than or equal to player.instance.stats.sp. So do we have enough SP to use the skill, right? I really don't like that in Visual Studio 2015, when I use a custom code snippet, it automatically adds this new line entry. That's really annoying. Debug.log error. Skill with name blah was not found in the repository. Skill name. Do I have a log error format? I do. Good. So I'll get notified if I'm trying to use, if I have equipped skills, I need to nip that in the bud if they aren't in the repository, or for whatever reason the repository is empty or whatever. So can we use the skill right now is just a factor of the SP cost versus the player's SP. So use the skill. Now this is a little trickier. So, So when I attack, I have this QTE that pops up, right? I kind of want to have, well, not kind of want to have, I'm going to have a variety of QTEs that will gauge the usage of the skill, right? So the player can still miss if they use bash, or it might be a skill that has a modification factor. Maybe the more you mash, the stronger the bash is. So it could be anywhere from 1.0 times effective or to 2.0 times effective, depending on how much they mash the button within a certain time frame. Or maybe it's a slider value they need to hold down and then release before it reaches the end, and as close as they get to the end, that's your multiplier. So yeah, so I'm not sure what QTE I want to use for this, but for the moment, I do want to support that infrastructurally. So my attack controller, or rather my attack QTE, is on the enemy. It's a part of its canvas, and it shows up that UI whenever I attack. Well, for the moment, let's think for a moment. Yeah, I'll implement this right now, and then I'll end the video here, and then the next video I'll be implementing the QTE system and wiring that all up, which off the top of my head I think is going to be a variant of the command pattern, where I'm going to have a active skill class, or rather an active skill controller for every type of skill I'm going to use, and I might feed some values into that, and that'll be responsible for showing the QTE and having the resulting success or failure of the QTE. But I need to think about that a little bit longer. So for right now, we'll finish this out. So we're using the skill. We verified that we can use the skill. So player.instance.sp add sp. This is a search. So let me do this. So we're gonna bada bing and bada boom. And so another part of this, though, so a battle skill is going to require that the player has a focused enemy. So if so player can attack enemy. That's old. That's from my action RPG. Or rather, when I had battles going on the overworld, and there was more movement and dodging involved in combat. So if we have a focused enemy, we're not escaping, we're not already attacking, and the base can attack. The stamina's matching, and we're not guarding. That is, guarding can actually go away as well, because that was originally a part of a system where I was holding down the B button to be in a defensive stat, and there was a constant stamina drain while the player was guarding. But for now, so if the SP cost is met and we can attack, I'm okay with all those criteria, we're going to return true. Wow. return that. Okay, so we're going to use the skill. We're going to add the SP, and when the player attacks, what do? We attack the focused enemy. These calculate methods are private. I'm fine with those being public, though. Like, ultimately, when I go to write test methods for this, well, they have to be, if they're virtual, they have to be protected. Well, unless I make the base public. Which honestly, I'm fine with that as well. It just can't be a higher, or rather a more restrictive security, or rather access signature than the parent. So attack. So attack enemy, we are going to, focused enemy is exposed, I believe. Yeah. I don't need to, once again, the passing in the player's transform was a part of an older battle system I was experimenting with. Yeah, so that's going to be a critical attack of 1.5. And do I still have, I do still have stun in here. We'll stun for a time of 3 seconds. Question is, does this do anything? It invokes wake from stun in the time. I'm just going to leave that as a flat stun from time. Yeah, and then wake from stun does that. And this is enemy who is a child of actor. Stun recovery factor. Am I using that anywhere else? That can go away. Stamina regen. I need to restrict stamina regeneration. That's the trick. So actor, recover stamina. If can recover stamina. Virtual. Perfect. Am I already implementing that? I'm not. Where'd my stun go? There you are. override can recover stamina. This just got incredibly easy. Now I'm going to keep this is stunned here on the enemy class for the moment, but when I go to do status effects, stun will become a proper status effect, and I'll need to store that somewhere and indicate that the enemy is stunned. And actually the player can probably become stunned as well, so I'll end up moving that to the base class, I'm sure. But for the meantime, I have 2 errors. Calculate stamina recovery rate, cannot change access modifiers. Excuse you. Oh, because I made those public. And what's the other one you're yelling about? Nothing. Okay. So, player skill controller, we're going to use the skill. And that's going to bash, and that's going to stun bash. Now, checking if face buttons pressed, triggers pressed. We are checking if we can use the skill, if we can use any skills. And yeah. Can use any skills. Can we use this skill? And then we are using this skill. We are decreasing the SP. We are decreasing the SP. And we're going to replace this with something like a command system. But for now, I'm just going to switch on these 2 skill keys. And I'm going to apply those 2 effects. So now I just need to change my face buttons to show the equipped skills based on which trigger I have selected. Face button display controller. These are all accessed from outside. And if I remember right, this guy, yeah, he's in the HUD manager. Do I have anything going on in here as far as update button checks or anything like that? Yeah, I think I'm just using this to check from outside. Like I'm just setting things from outside of this guy. And honestly, I'm fine with keeping it that way. So player skill controller. Yeah, so I'm going to make another controller here. Am I? Yeah, you know what? Actually, I'm going to do this in here. So I'm going to do so he's already a mono behavior. He's sitting on top of that UI element. So if that UI element is inactivated or whatever, this is going to not get called anyways. So first off, I need, similar to my skill controller, I need the trigger value. And I keep forgetting. I should have written this down somewhere again, but yeah. No, wait, positive was the left, negative is right, because I remember being surprised at that. I assumed that left was going to be negative. Yeah, so 1 is the left trigger, 2 is the right trigger. I'm going to double check that because, boy, am I having trouble remembering that. Does my code build? Yes, it does. Yes, left trigger is positive, right trigger is negative. That is so backwards. Oops. There we go. All right, so if we hold down the triggers, we should then be getting all the skills from the equip skill manager and setting them to the appropriate buttons. Now, when we let go of the triggers, that's the problem. So, player instance can act in battle means we are in battle. And I've been operating with this set battle text thing. I'm also about to start doing a bunch of unnecessary calls to setting these values. Like I said before, I need to devise a system by which I track the various states and only act when the state changes. But yeah, I don't like doing that though. I don't like setting these a lot every single. I'm essentially setting this text 60 times a second, and that's not, while it's not hugely imperformant, like, it's extremely unnecessary. Yeah, I'm going to need to devise a better system for controlling this text, but for the moment, oh wait, I already have something calling this. Yeah, so when I get out of battle, that's fine. Oh well. As I've said several, whoa, damn, don't zoom in too far. As I said several times so far, I will deal with that later. But we're a bit over an hour now on this part, so I want to wrap this up with some success. So now we get to our testing phase. So we build, we have no errors. Let's see what happens. Yep, so running around, jumpity jump, right trigger, left trigger, changes nothing because we're not in battle. Yeah, so I have no skills on my right trigger, and I have stun and bash on my left ones. So bash hit. It didn't drain my stamina, and it did not drain my SP. Because I never set an SP cost, and because I did not do anything about stamina in my skill controller. So use skill, player.instance.add_sp, player, I believe when I attack on the player side, I just do an stamina is equal to 0. Yeah, so player.instance.stats.stamina is equal to 0. And we will go ahead and skill repository. SP cost is equal to 15. SP cost is equal to 25. Let's go and give that another shot. There's no visual indicator on any of this stuff, so like I said before, we'll be dealing with that in a little bit, but for now, yeah, so stun bash, the 1.5 times is a little, yeah, it's kind of killing in one hit, so maybe I want to do something about that. Yeah, and I can't use it while I have, yeah, so I can't use anything while I have no SP. So, and I took off the thing on my test, right? So let's go ahead and re-add this so I can give myself some SP again. Additionally, I want to see this stun in action. So actually, I thought I saw it accidentally. I think it stunned the next enemy after, because I killed the enemy with the bash, or rather the stun bash. I think when it immediately focused to the other enemy, it enacted stun against him. So let me find a bunny here with 2 guys. All right, and let's go and stun bash. So yeah. See, his stamina stopped. So at least it worked. It stopped for a few seconds and it restarted. I just need to do this. And even if it changes after the damage, the stun is happening first. So that's fine. Yeah, it doesn't help me. I have, in case you're wondering, I have temporary invincibility so the player won't get into battle right after escaping one or winning one. And that is that for the moment. So in our next part, we're going to go ahead and wire up our QuickTime events system, replacing this switch statement with more of a command system. And that'll give us the ability to apply different QuickTime events to different skills more easily. In addition, well, I don't know. We'll see what other problems arise as we go through it. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.